Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of August 6, 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. Boy, is this a very special time. We have important moments as part of the larger Venus retrograde season, but we've also got an important moment as part of the larger Mercury retrograde season. It was last week that Mercury went into shadow. And this is one of the more hopeful Mercury retrogrades that I have seen in a while, with an ongoing supremely harmonious dance with Jupiter. As much as we're looking at Venus retrograde, what's so interesting is with Mercury moving quite quickly, it is going to be, as we move forward in the first days of September, that Venus will go direct. And as we move to the first days of October, will leave shadow. Now, Mercury, slightly different dates here, with right around the 23rd, officially going retrograde, staying retrograde right to the middle of September. And at the very end of September, just dipping into October, we get Mercury leaving shadow. And it's fascinating that just as we are finishing off the larger Venus retrograde season, well, that's when we'll also be finishing off the larger Mercury retrograde season as well. And this is interesting because Venus has to do with what brings us joy, what brings us pleasure, where we indulge. And of course, it has to do with our ideas of love, not necessarily the feelings of love. If love is truly being present with someone, feeling that emotional connection, well, that tends to be about the moon. But romantic love and courtship, this is something that is connected to the energy of Venus. But Mercury, in contrast, has to do with mind. It has to do with ideas and intellect. Where Venus represents a more sensory experience, Mercury helps us to make sense of it. And what's interesting, of course, is with retrogrades, we are invited to get honest. That really is the higher spiritual intention of any retrograde. It invites us to go within, to get honest with ourselves, to look at what we really feel about a given situation, what it is that is lighting us up very deeply within with Venus, and what it is that we really think about a matter where it comes to Mercury. And so the fact that these two planets in their own signs that they are moving through now, with Venus in Leo and Mercury in Virgo, it speaks very powerfully to how this is a time of us moving towards or being immersed in some type of contemplation, or a sense of needing to go back over old ground, a sense of needing to return. But I think that this is ultimately about a return to ourselves. It was the late, great Donna Cunningham. I loved her books back in the day as a student of astrology. I tried to meet up with her to interview her, but it didn't come together. And she leaves behind this incredible legacy of the books that she's written. And Donna Cunningham wrote about the energy of Virgo, the energy of the sixth house. She talked about how it is the sixth house and Virgo energy in the astrology chart that shows us where a person is self-sufficient, where it is that a person is able to focus on their own tasks, their own interest, their own desires to practice mastery. You can find what that is and where that is if it is that you look at the condition of the sixth house, are planets there, what sign is on the cusp of the sixth house, but also where the energy of Virgo lies in your chart as well. Now, Venus, of course, requires others to know itself. We know ourselves more fully, especially on a sensory level, as we are present for ourselves and our lives, but also in the context of the company of others. But still, Venus as an energy, especially in the sign of Leo, loves big romantic gestures, but ultimately still stays focused on one's own experience of love, of flirtation, of romance as it is unfolding. And so both of these energies are inviting us to not only go within with their current with Venus, upcoming with Mercury retrogrades, but they're also inviting us to understand where it is that we end and another might begin, and what it is within ourselves that we can feel good about. What can we hold to feel a sense of our own power, our own independence, our own self-sufficiency? Where can we enjoy life that much more? Simply by existing, simply by being present for our lives. Something very powerful happening with this Mercury retrograde season is how it interweaves with this larger Venus retrograde season as well. It is this Thursday that we get Mercury trine Jupiter. The day before, we get Venus square Uranus. It is going to be the 4th of September that Venus goes direct. And on the same day, we will again have Mercury trine Jupiter, this time with Mercury retrograde. And then as we go forward, it is going to be on the 25th of September with Mercury direct, that Mercury will make its third and last trine with Jupiter. And it is just 3 days later that we get the final alignment as part of the larger Venus retrograde season of Venus connecting with Uranus. As part of the mystery, as part of the larger dance, there is an interconnection playing out here. Uranus squares are always an invitation to understand ourselves and understand our own creative independence, our creative agency. It's to think of things in new ways that perhaps we hadn't considered before. The fact that we've got these Venus square Uranus happening hand in hand with, dancing along with the way that Mercury is dancing with Jupiter. Well, Mercury being mind, speaking in supreme harmony with Jupiter, that is thinking expansively. That is growth. That is optimism, thinking and speaking words that are healing, that are hopeful, and taking on a spirit of adventure where it comes to our willingness to communicate with each other. The fact that these two different celestial events happen repeatedly but stay connected to each other as part of the mystery tells me that it isn't just about what we're feeling and the surprise of our hearts and the shock. That might be part of it for some of us. But it's also about how we make sense of it, how we use it to cultivate greater blessings, greater opportunities. And make no mistake, Mercury trine Jupiter does represent blessings in a big way. With Mercury in Virgo, the blessing to live as you desire in your smallest moments, in your day-to-day life, to have a reality as you move through your life that feels more full of good fortune and every reason to be optimistic. So let's talk about healing vibes here, because that is emphasized in a big way, especially as we move towards the end of the week where we reach a pivotal moment as part of any big Venus retrograde season. Now, Venus as morning star, Venus moving to evening star. What does that mean? Well, as morning star, Venus rises above the eastern horizon just before the sun, sometimes a couple hours before the sun, because Venus is never more than 2 signs away from the sun. We tend to see her as a morning star before the sun will rise in the east. Once the sun is out, of course, no other planets are visible to our eyes in the sky. But there comes a moment when Venus crosses a threshold. Retrograde goes over the sun. And there she transitions from being a morning star to an evening star, meaning that she appears in the west just after the sun has set. This transition from morning to evening star is the stuff of legend. It is something that has captured the imaginations of the ancients going all the way back. And in particular, one myth that talks at length about our human understanding of this very transition is a myth that goes back about 6,000 years that comes from ancient Sumer. And it is the myth of Inanna, also known as Ishtar. My understanding of the myth of Inanna was heavily influenced by a beautiful book that I read many years ago. I couldn't get enough of this book. I read it so many times, called Descent to the Goddess by Sylvia Brinton Pereira. This book puts a Jungian look at this beautiful myth and how it is that so many women in particular might live this myth in their own lives, how there will be times in a life when we are invited to descent, to know ourselves and know our lives differently. I loved this book so much that I actually wrote about it, quoted it heavily in an academic paper that I wrote back in the day, and I'll link to that below. It is now posted on my website, so I hope that you enjoy that. Inanna was queen of the earthly realm. Her sister, Ereshkigal, was queen of the underworld. And one day, Inanna, living a beautiful life on earth, well, she starts getting complaints. She herself can hear what people are complaining about. They're saying that there's this wailing going on. It's coming from the underworld. It's disruptive. It's not cool. They're saying, Inanna, do something about this. Could you take care of this? You're the queen. You got to make sure that, this is ridiculous now. Okay. So Inanna decides that she's going to go into the underworld and see what's going on with her sister. And so she goes to the gates of the underworld. And along the way, there are a total of 7 gates. And at each gate, she is invited, well, she's commanded to release something of her clothing, of her regalia, things that symbolize her role as queen. And once she passes the 7th gate and she is now nude in the underworld, there she sees Ereshkigal hanging on a meat hook, wailing in grief over the loss of her great love. And Inanna goes and has no power in that moment. There's nothing she can do. The only thing she can do is bear witness, sit there and be present with Ereshkigal. Now, after a while of Inanna being present, bearing witness, a powerfully healing thing to be, Ereshkigal does feel better. She does stop wailing. She's no longer on the meat hook. And then Inanna begins to ascend. And as she ascends through the 7 gates, her regalia, items of her clothing are returned to her, but this time they look different to her. They feel different to her. They no longer have the same gravitas or importance to her like they did before. So she comes up to the earth, back to her realm. It seems peaceful enough. She looks around and she sees that the great love of her life is with somebody else. She realizes how much of what she saw before was superficial. It wasn't real. It didn't exist. And she is forever changed as a result. Now, that is a very Jungian perspective on the myth of Inanna. Other regions, other tellings of Inanna/Ishtar talk about how she went to the underworld, but she was tricked, and how Inanna needed to be rescued and then was brought back up, and everybody rejoiced. And that might be the case. And that might be one way to understand this particular way in which humanity, especially in that region, conceptualized and made meaning of this move that Venus is making now. However, regardless of what telling we have, we do know that the ancients understood that this is a transformative experience for Inanna/Ishtar, the planet Venus. This is a moment where that energy, that deity will come to know herself differently in some way. She is in a process of transformation. And as she moves from morning star to evening star, she is going into the underworld and she will know herself differently forever as a result of this transition. In this case, back in 2023, where we are right now, what is so distinct about this particular move of Venus is that Venus and the sun are hanging tight, a supremely harmonious connection with Chiron. That emphasizes the healing moment that we are in. It emphasizes how, whereas earlier in the week, we've got the chaos, the frustration, the need for creative thought that Venus square Uranus represents. As we move to the end of this week and into next, this is where we see the love and the wisdom in particular. We cultivate the wisdom in particular related to what is and has been transpiring over the course of this larger Venus retrograde season that we have been in since the later part of June. This is a powerful transitional moment for a lot of us, and it emphasizes the quality of Venus retrograde, which is to go within, to find the love within. And in this case, hanging tight with Chiron, find the wisdom within as well. And so some exact dates I want to give you here so you understand. Even though the sun will have its precise moment of connection with Chiron, precise moment of meeting Venus, Venus has her precise moment with Chiron, I'm going to invite you to think of this as a swath of time. It's not limited to or restricted to just a given moment, but rather this represents a larger period where these lessons, these understandings, these insights are especially strong. The sun will ensure that our understanding is going to be one that lightens the load in some way, that illuminates us, that empowers us as well. And so we move towards the end of the week, and it is Friday into Saturday that we get the exact trine of the sun to Chiron. As we step into Sunday, we get the exact conjunction of the sun and Venus as we step just into Monday of next week. That is when we get the exact trine of Venus. So you can see here, it's those days ending this week and beginning next week that are going to be so powerful. Now, putting things into a bit of context, keep in mind that as we begin the week right out of the gate, we do have the sun square Jupiter. That is overly optimistic, overly doing it, overconfidence as well, that can have us overshooting the mark. And this is also a sense of overpromising or heightened expectations. With the sun in the sign of Leo, I see this as a very braggadocious kind of energy. But when we do that without a measure of humility, we kind of set ourselves up for that healing energy of Chiron to come in and be that much more piercing in some way. And so all of us in at least one area of life might have to practice some humility even when it's hard, and make sure that what it is that we're being so confident about is backed up with action. And just a heads up, it will be next week, in the middle of the week, that we will have a new moon close in the sky to Venus. This is very powerful. That is going to be a retrograde Venus that still promises a brand new beginning. This week and the lead into next sets the stage for that sense of fresh perspectives and brand new beginnings. And I'll be here to talk about it every step of the way. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. Well, I've got to say, it has got to be the energy as we move late into the week, with us moving into this key moment, the heart of this Venus retrograde season. That occurs when Venus meets the Sun, as is the case now. These two getting together brings illumination and lightness to Venus retrograde, which sometimes can feel very burdensome or heavy in some ways. With this meeting now, some truth is illuminated, very likely about ourselves, but at least in the case of this particular Venus retrograde, it is an illumination that leads us back to our own healing, our own wisdom, our own love. Venus retrograde in the sign of Leo has been an invitation to understand the love we hold within more powerfully and more meaningfully, to prioritize that and to find a personal connection to why that love within is so important. Here we have a profoundly healing moment that is revealing as to what this Venus retrograde season is uniquely for you, where it is that healing is ready to take place, where it is that perspective of the wisdom that you're gaining in this moment is set to take place. And as you find it, cherish it, knowing that that is also where love can happen as well. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here's some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month. With choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University has some incredible programs coming up this September, and they are proving to be incredibly popular as well. I'm so excited to welcome so many new students, and of course our tried and true students as well, in this very special month at Synchronicity University, where for a very limited time, our world famous Choose Your Tuition rate is active right now. Let's start with this very exceptional speaker series that we have going. And this September speaker series is set to be very special because we will be welcoming one of our greats, and I don't say that lightly, astro legend. The one and only Richard TARNAS will be joining us. Now, Richard is somebody who doesn't teach as often anymore. I'm so grateful for his trust. He is going to be teaching live as well, and he's going to be teaching as only he can. The author of Cosmos and Psyche, a hugely influential book in astrological circles. There's no other place where you will get to learn from Richard TARNAS at this rate. I hope that you'll join us for that talk. But we've got other incredible astrologers as well ready to join us. And they include JENN ZAHRT, also in her own right, a big dog in astrology. And JENN is going to be talking about Mercury retrograde in Virgo and understanding Mercury as well for you. We have KRISTOFF. She is going to be looking at critical degrees in astrology. I had a wonderful talk with her looking at the critical degrees right now that Pluto is in. The very end of a sign and the very beginning of a sign are very powerful points according to evolutionary astrology. She's going to be exploring that with you. My friend NATHALIA Maria is going to be looking at new ways to understand the signs through myth. A whole new understanding through myth. I mean, I am so excited about this talk. I think it's going to be so insightful and will really help you to understand the 12 signs more deeply. And we will have Nadiya Shah. I am a last minute fill in, and I'm so excited about this because I'm going to be looking at Pluto in Aquarius. We're doing a check-in now. How did it go for you earlier this year? What can you expect specifically in 2024. So there's lots to talk about here, and I will be going through the 12 signs so that you can understand some of what Pluto in Aquarius is for you. But of course, I've been talking about this energy for years, and you can learn a lot more in the decade ahead horoscopes as well for your sign. And I will link to that below as well. So we've got an incredible speaker series this September. Choose Your Tuition Rate is on for a very limited time. You get to discover some new astrologers, but also the very rare opportunity to learn from a legend, Richard TARNAS. This is a program that is not to be missed. Links are in the description below, or go to synchronicityuniversity.com. Synchronicity University presents the absolutely brilliant Rachel Lang. She is going to be teaching modern money magic. Now, she's actually the author of a well-known book called Modern Day Magic, but now she is focusing that much more on helping you to understand the astrology behind finances and tapping into the wisdom of that to maximize prosperity for yourself. I love how many people are positively responding to the interview that I did with her. And it really is so practical. You can take what she's saying and apply it to your chart right away, and apply it to your life really as well. So this is a 5-week course. You are going to understand money in all kinds of ways in the astrology chart so that you can tap into your chart right now, and to those you might serve through your practice in astrology as well. Choose Your Tuition Rate is on right now for a very limited time. And you can check out those links below. The one and only Rachel Lang at synchronicityuniversity.com. I look forward to meeting you in class. Synchronicity University has Kira Sutherland, one of the world-leading medical astrologers, coming to Synchronicity University for a 5-part course, helping you to tap into your very best optimal health by understanding your chart and the astrology that much more deeply. Now, Kira did teach a single class before, and it was so popular, so useful to so many people. And it's so wonderful to have her back now with her very own course. This is proving to be very popular. Lots of people are jumping on the opportunity to learn from Kira Sutherland at this low rate, just $5 a class. For a very limited time, you can learn from Kira Sutherland at synchronicityuniversity.com medical astrology from one of the world's best. Links are in the description below. Join me in Calgary, Alberta this September for the Canadian Astrology Conference. This is huge. I'm so excited to be part of this event. I will be MC, so you will see me there throughout the event in Calgary, Alberta. Now, prices are in Canadian dollars. And that means if you are coming in from the US, boy, are you getting a wonderful deal. And we have international guests joining us. The one and only, the great Rick Levine, as I like to call him. Now, Rick Levine, he is going to be doing the keynote at the dinner. He's going to be doing a workshop as well. You can join this event live, but you can also join live online as well. So if you can't join us in person, we will miss you, but you can join online. I'm sure it's going to be quite the party in that space also. So join us in Calgary, Alberta. I have a lot more to say as we move towards this event, but you can learn a lot more about this event right now at CanadianAstrologyConference.ca. Links are in the description below. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. And wow, do we have exciting times coming up this week and into next week as well. This is a pivotal moment of the larger Venus retrograde season. Tap into this moment, tap into this time, because this is where we learn as part of our individual journeys to love ourselves more deeply and to heal those things that keep us from loving ourselves adamantly. I am wishing you so much love and wisdom on that journey, and I'm excited to be some part of it with you as well. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.